The following was recorded in front of a live studio audience at the Studio 21 Podcast Cafe. This is the United Podcast Network.
The following program is closed captioned for the thinking impaired.
By tomorrow, I will rule the world!
You think he's gone? He's not gone. That's the whole point. He's never gone.
Is this some radical new therapy?
You see?
Well, I must have not been paying attention.
Try this again.
When you were just talking to me. Do you think that you could repeat the question?
Very helpful. Thank you, Ben.
Listen more attentively.
Very helpful. Except for coffee.
There must have been
Not a very good coffee maker.
See how he is? See how he is?
wasn't quite so easy to
This isn't letting me share it, though.
and I must have missed something. When you were just talking to me.
Uh-oh, COVID.
I must have not been paying attention when you were busy slamming the door. I guess
It's not even letting me share it. I'll just do it later, I guess. I have absolutely no...
same as they were before. There must have been something in all of that
Alrighty.
that shot me like
Are we going out someplace or no?
Kind of if you want. What do you want to take?
I meant to humans in the stratosphere.
I see.
Are we?
Very good.
Just a little.
driving me out of my mind.
Alrighty, let's get this show on the road, shall we? Hi, how you guys doing? My name's Tom Duggan here at the Paying Attention Podcast. Hi atop Two Guys Smoke Shop at the Studio 21 Podcast Cafe. It is our 1-year anniversary with Methuen Mayor, just bring me up just a little bit, with Methuen Mayor Neil Perry. And boy, it's been a rocky year, Mayor. It's been a rocky year, a little bit, right?
It's been a delightful year.
I know you get a lot of crap for coming on this show, so I want to give you a lot of credit for continuing to come. And I don't know why people want to censor people. People in the political world, when someone says something that they don't like or they're disputing something that they say, they instead of combating that speech with other speech and showing you how you're wrong, they just want to censor you. So I know there's a huge movement there has been to try and get you to stop doing this show.
Yeah.
And I give you a lot of credit for continuing to come in, because I know your life would be easier if you just stopped doing the show. Because
It would be.
You wouldn't have city councilors constantly trying to like blackmail you and bribe you not to come on the show.
I don't think they blackmailed me.
Well, I've heard some stories. So
Have you?
I have heard some stories.
Stories.
So before we get started, and I'm not going to get into the controversial stuff right away.
Oh.
But before we get started, I want to play a clip.
Uh-oh.
Because I remember you were here on the show in March.
Yeah.
And in April, and I kept saying, open the schools, open the schools,
Yeah.
open the schools. And you wouldn't believe the hate mail that I got. I'm trying to kill people.
Yeah.
I don't know the science. I'm not a scientist.
Yeah.
And I heard something on ABC News this week
That's Dr. Fauci.
that made me very curious about whether or not Tom might have been right all along. Let's play that.
Here we go.
Close the bars and keep the schools open is what we really say. Obviously, you don't have one size fits all, but as I said in the past, and as you accurately quoted me, the default position should be to try as best as possible within reason to keep the children in school or to get them back to school. The best way
Wait, what?
to ensure the safety of the children in school
What?
is to get the community level
What?
of spread
Heresy.
low. So if you mitigate the things that you know are causing spread in a very, very profound way, in a robust way, if you bring that down, you will then indirectly and ultimately protect the children in the school, because the community level is determined how things go across the board. So my feeling would be the same thing. If you look at the data, the spread among children and from children is not really very big at all.
No.
Not like one would have suspected.
No.
So let's try to get the kids back, but let's try to mitigate the things that maintain.
All right, I've heard
push
enough.
The kind of
Okay, stop
spread.
it. Yeah,
It's so
I'm
funny
ready to talk.
because come last April, when we were at the very beginning of all this, and I kept saying open the schools because the science says, and I said to you many times, the science says kids are not spreading it as easily, they're not getting it as easily, the ones that get it aren't getting sick for the most part. And everybody, I think even including you, Mayor, was saying like I wasn't following the science.
Yeah.
And now the preeminent Saint Fauci is now telling us what I said in March and April that everybody said I was trying to kill people.
Oh, won't somebody please think of the children?
I'm going to guess that was South Park, right? Simpsons. Oh, The Simpsons. I was close.
So let's get to the point. Are you going to share those chips during the show?
If you'd like me to, sure.
Okay, because that's the most important thing.
Oh, breaking news, by the way. Breaking news. This is way better than any political breaking news. Doritos. I bought this bag of Doritos today, and on the back it says, guess what's coming back? Doritos Blaze. Right? So Blaze Girl, who I know is watching today, you're back in business, honey. As soon as they start releasing the new Blaze chips.
Oh, my God.
Blaze Girl gets to come back to the studio and hang out with us and bring us some Blaze chips.
He's like a walking HR violation. So let me go back to Dr. Fauci, and I want to present the point counterpoint to your. So first and foremost, I have great respect for Dr. Fauci.
That scares me about you, by the way.
Well, I do.
Because the guy's been wrong about everything.
He hasn't been wrong about everything. This is one of those situations that Americans are kind of spoiled.
Yeah, we are. I agree.
We like our problems solved. We want an answer right away. Right. COVID? What's the answer? Tell me the answer. Yes, no, black, white. Let's get it over with.
Right.
Let's get back to business, right? And this has not been one of those situations, and people aren't happy about it. And that along with your political persuasion, factors whether you think Fauci's a saint or whether he's Satan.
I'm just looking at the data, and the data says everything he told us at the beginning.
So if you told me you were going to run that clip, I would have brought you my data, which is real data.
Okay.
And my data says that
Fauci's not good enough for you?
The fastest growing population getting COVID in the city of Methuen, let's talk just city of Methuen, is the under 19 sect.
I saw that.
Right? There's no one
but they're not dying.
So only death we're worried about.
Death and sickness. Death and sickness.
Well,
most of them aren't getting sick, and most of them aren't dying.
You're making a leap here. Most of them aren't getting sick. Most of them are getting sick.
They are.
Right? Yeah. So when you look at my under 19 population, they're getting sick now. And so what has started to happen over time, and I want to say this, if you go back in March, our 60 and 70 plus population was the ground zero for COVID outbreak, and we had a lot of deaths. And knock on wood, I'll knock on my head, I'll knock on yours, we have not had a death in Methuen COVID-related since August. And that's good.
That's great.
Yeah,
that's great.
But at the same time, if you look at the lower three age brackets, the under 19, the 20 to 29, and the 30 to 39, exponential growth. And so you got to sit back and say, why is that happening? And a lot of it's happening because I don't know, forget my math, 8 months into the pandemic, and people are tired of the masks, and they're tired of the discipline associated with the masks and social distancing. We're in the holidays. People want to be together. 4,800 some odd cases in Massachusetts yesterday.
Cases.
Mm-hmm. Brand new ones.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's going to happen. It's a virus. It's going to spread.
Well, yeah, it's going to happen because some of us said, be damned, Governor. We're going to spend Thanksgiving the way we want to spend it.
Right. I was one of those people.
Yeah. Well, you have a weakened immune system.
I do.
So I should be, knitting a bubble together for you. But the bottom line is the lower age groups are growing exponentially. And we have tried to maintain hybrid attendance in Methuen. We did a staggered start. Some parents liked that. Some parents hated it. This is one of those issues, this back to school. No matter what decision you make, somebody's going to be unhappy. Right? So there's nothing even in the political spectrum in Methuen that even comes close to opening and closing the schools due to the COVID. Right? Whatever we do, whatever decision we make, it excites a percentage of the population. And I say candidly to you, I still get up and look myself in the mirror every morning. And as the chair of the school committee, I say, I think we're doing the right things and we're trying to make the right decisions. Right, we've been in, and we're currently in remote. We're in remote because we have a large number of staff, and our student numbers have gone up significantly in the last 2 weeks. And that's fact. That's not fiction. We look at the numbers, and I want to say publicly, kudos to the superintendent and her staff. They've been working their tails off. Right, to make sure that we do the right things for our public schools. We've got great protocols, but we're into quarantining classes, quarantining grades. And we said, when we get to the quarantine grade, and then we had to quarantine the lowest school at the Tenny. I don't know if you're aware of that. So those are the things that are facts that make you pause and make decisions that are in the best interests of all. And does that make some people unhappy? You betcha, right? So 11 months into this job, I've learned that no matter how much I care and how much I try to make every decision focused on improving the community, somebody's not going to like my decision.
Right.
Hey, I got people hooting and hollering because I spent $6,000. I spent more than $6,000, to be honest with you, on candy for Halloween.
Right.
I used CARES funding. It didn't come out of taxes. And I got people, calling sound off in the Trib and other things saying it's sick. Right? It's ridiculous. Come on.
Right.
Let's focus on the big stuff, people. Right? You want to.
Well, there are a lot of what I call petty tyrants.
Petty tyrants.
Yes, you've got one on the city council who wants to spend 4 hours because a comma's in the wrong place when you're approving minutes. And you've got a lot of petty tyrants who they really don't care about the big stuff. They just want to nitpick the little things. They want to be petty tyrants.
So let me stop you for a second, because now we're 12 months into this discussion.
Yes,
and I want to say to you the same thing I would say to them. Oh, you almost lit yourself on fire there.
I know.
Adam,
that would have made a lot of people happy too.
I would have gotten a can of gas to put that out.
I'm sure you would have. And by the way, keep filming if that ever happens, because I want my audience to know how I died before the Tribune can screw up the story of my death.
The ratings would be through the roof.
Yes, it would. So, Steve Sable would be hitting refresh every 5 seconds. Did you see how Duggan lit up on fire? That was great. Let's watch that again. Maybe we can monetize that on YouTube.
I like it. That's good.
Sorry.
So I'm going to keep saying this, and I know you don't. So I said it on my show. I know you love my show, even though you don't watch it.
I do, by the way, watch it. It infuriates me, but I do watch it.
There is no we they. And the more of this that goes on, the more people, hear of it and try to buy it. There's no we. This is not an administration where the mayor is trying to sneak. You know what? I almost said the SH word.
You can say that. I say shit all the time on the show.
I'm not trying to sneak anything by this council, right? And I've been more transparent than any mayor in recent history.
Okay.
And sometimes
I'm going to challenge you on that in a minute.
Well, that's fine. Sometimes to my detriment. Right?
I agree with that.
So
for sure.
We end up debating things that, talk about the Christmas light thing, right? I applied to the Castle Fund for a grant. The people who are the ministers of the trust of the Castle Fund approved it for $53,000. That's the bulk of the lighting and everything. We're doing a spectacular event that's people in the city are going to love it. Mm-hmm. I say that to you candidly. And we had a meeting to talk about accepting the grant of the award from the Castle Fund. That's all it should have been about. Instead, I got into, this is too much money, and people walked away thinking we were taking money out of their taxes and everything. We're going to talk about taxes this coming Monday night. And I think it's a really good discussion.
Taxes are always a good discussion.
Well, they are, because they're going to. I think people are going to see that once again, I've done the right things financially to put the city in right shape. And by the way, I want to say, with the councilors, we've done the right things. And
most of the councilors are doing a good job. I would say most of the councilors are doing a good job.
I want to. Hey, you got to sign it.
I did.
I think everybody has the right intentions, right? And I said this in the.
Oh, come on now.
Hang on. I think everybody wants to improve Methuen.
You really think that?
I do.
That's so cute.
I do.
Bennett, isn't that cute?
That's cute.
He actually thinks that certain people, that all 9 of them are all there for the right intentions.
Well, I do think
I watch those meetings and I don't see that. Well, I don't know what meeting you're watching.
So methodology is different, right? And they do things that I don't agree with, and I do things that they don't agree with. But I got to be honest with you, there's been 2 times, during the council meetings that I've kind of lost my collective cool, and I regret doing that.
You shouldn't, because
I do.
I think you should do it more. I think at some point you need to say to these people, listen, I respect you, I will work with you, but you are not the mayor. Stop micromanaging my office. Because they do. They want to micromanage the police department. They want to micromanage everything that you do. One councilor even proposed having every single contract in the city, like paper clips.
More than one.
Right? But there was one spearheading it, right?
Yeah, but there were 2.
Oh, who was the other one? It was Jessica and who then?
Councilor DeZoglio, I believe.
Okay, so you had two councilors who wanted to have every single dime you spent have to come before the council.
Yep.
That's the definition of gridlock. Nothing gets done if that happens.
But here's the thing. So what we don't want the residents to walk away thinking that there's lack of transparency because they don't see that. There is transparency. There's more transparency than ever before. We're not hiding something, right? So if somebody posted something on social media. Why are they hiding the thing? They're not hiding anything. I mean, I'm so tired of hearing that this didn't get posted to the website. This didn't get posted to the website.
You have to. I'm going to try and say this delicately.
Yeah.
And I say this as a friend. You have to stop giving so much weight to the naysayers who are going to pick you apart no matter. Like you could
I'm their mayor too.
But you could literally save a baby from a burning building and they would criticize the way you did it.
Oh.
So I'm just saying, I'm not saying don't listen to it and don't pay attention to it. I'm just saying don't give as much mental thought to it because then they win.
I'm an Irishman. First, last, and always.
You see how
the glass is always half empty.
Do you see how bad I get my ass kicked on Facebook every single day by somebody? Yesterday it was Dave Beauregard. The day before that it was somebody else. The day before that it was somebody else. And it's always a different accusation. I've been accused of everything you can possibly imagine, from killing somebody to I had one guy go on and say I was a rapist. I had another person go, and I'm Irish too.
Yeah.
But you know what? I've been in this business so long that I don't answer them and I don't pay attention to them because it's all the same people. And if I saved a baby from a burning building tomorrow, they would go out and take a picture, reverse the negative, and say Tom Duggan puts baby in burning building.
I'm still thinking about the YouTube video of you on fire.
Steve
millions of hits, right? Yeah. So let me tell you, I did an event the Tuesday before Thanksgiving. And I don't know if Corrine LaCharity's
love her.
She's terrific. She and her team do a fabulous job for the seniors of Methuen. And they invited me up. They had a drive-through event where they recognized their volunteers and all the things they've done in a very difficult year. And they gave them, gift cards, goodie bags. It was really cool. And I went for, I don't know, hour and a half, 2 hours, and did it with them. It was a really cold day, and I wore my big puffy coat that people love.
And a mask.
Yeah. And it was uplifting. It was uplifting. I had a lot of positive messages of reinforcement from people about the approach. And so I sit there telling you that, there are going to be people disagree with some things I do, and they have a right to do that. But I think the city is responding. I'm all about restoring the accountability, period, in every job. Not just in one job.
Oh, good, because I got a great follow-up.
I'm sure you do. And that includes my job. So the longer we perpetuate the we, they, the longer we spiral into doing damage to our community, right? So this has been a year unlike any other. And, we've collectively made it through together. And I say that candidly. I get coaching from people who are supporters of me saying, you're not tough enough. You should be dope slapping them. I get people that text me during a meeting and say, put them down.
By the way, I would never text somebody during a public meeting.
Nor should you.
Because that becomes a public record.
Yeah.
So if somebody's texting, I'll just pick a councilor. If somebody's texting Joe Ferretra in the middle of the meeting, and it has to do with what they're talking about, that's a public record. If somebody sends a public records request, he has to turn those text messages over.
Agreed.
So when Bob LeBlanc is there telling Jim McCarty what to say during a meeting, they've got to be very careful. They've got to be very careful, because people like me will do a FOIA request for those text messages, and those things could reveal.
Listen, let me make your blood boil.
Sure.
So the chair, Mr. McCarty, and I, we don't always see eye to eye, and that's
here we go.
Obvious to everybody.
But we work together so well, and he really cares about the community.
No, I think he does. And our relationship has developed. He's not going to agree with everything I do. I'm not going to agree with everything he does. That's the nature of the business. But I would tell you that by and large, he and I are in a much better place than we were in January. Right? And I say that. Now, he's not going to be the chair anymore, so...
thank God.
Well, you say thank God. I think you look at everybody for what they do and what they do well, right? And so I know what I do well, and I know what I need to work on.
I look at people as a whole. I look at what they do well.
From a process standpoint, he does a very good job.
And what they don't do well. Well, let's review.
Yeah.
The charter
say he doesn't pass the.
But it needs to be said.
Yeah,
he's the council chairman.
Yeah,
and the charter says that the mayor can speak at meetings, and he has constantly not allowed you to speak and made other councilors give up their time so that you could speak. We've had members of the public try to put things on the agenda, and the charter says they're good. The charter says that members of the public can put items on the agenda, and he has refused it. The most recent one was a land situation with the Historical Commission. So I look at the whole. He has done some good things. I will say the first 3 or 4 months before COVID hit, I think he actually did a decent job running the meeting.
Ben, can I get a recording of that?
Sure. Put it on a loop on your phone when I call you. Jim McCarty does a good job. But I'm not them. Okay.
Yeah.
If they don't like you, you can do no right.
Yeah.
If I don't like you and you do something right, I'm going to come on the show. I'm objective. I can say Jim McCarty did a good job as council president for the first 4 months. And then I think after that, I don't know what happened. I don't know if it was the COVID situation. I don't know if it was the lack of everybody being in the same room, that he just kind of went, I think he went astray and started with not letting you speak, cutting you off like when you're on these Zoom meetings.
Yeah.
And the fights that happen that he encourages to happen because he loves chaos. So I look at all of that, the good that he did and the bad that he did, and I say he was not a good council president.
Yeah.
Now, I know
I'm going to respectfully disagree.
The next council president is going to be Steve Saber.
You know that already?
I do. What's the date today, Ben? December what? December 3rd? So on December 3rd, remember who told you that in January, Steve Saber is going to be a council president?
Is that my birthday gift? My birthday's coming up.
Is it really?
December 13th.
85 this year?
85. Yeah. Yeah.
So let me ask you. You say that you're all about transparency. I believe that.
Yeah, go ahead.
You say you're all about accountability. I believe that too.
Yep.
However, I'm watching the school committee.
Mm-hmm.
And I find out from some parents who have called me. I haven't written a story on it yet, but I'm kind of pondering it. So maybe depending on how you answer this, we'll decide whether there's a story or not. That the kids in Methuen can check in on their computer. Those who are doing remote.
Yeah.
And the teachers tell them they can turn off their cameras. And so the teacher doesn't have like the Brady Bunch, like a screen with all the kids.
Yeah.
Right. The kids could turn off their cameras as soon as they check in. And we have no idea if that kid's still sitting in front of the computer an hour later when they're talking about an English lesson or a math lesson. Why are the schools allowing kids to turn their computers off and then not be there?
I don't know.
Oh, well, I'm chairman of the school committee. I figured you might have an idea.
Well, I didn't. This is the first I heard that it's such a big deal.
Oh, I mean, at the last meeting, I understand school committeeman DeZoglio brought up this issue and was kind of...
He brought up an issue. See, this is where you got to be careful here. He brought up an issue. If little Johnny turns it off and gets in his car and drives away and has an accident, isn't the school liable? No, the school is not.
Right.
Right? So there's only so many things the school can do. Right? But the counterpoint to your question is, do you mandate that they keep the camera on?
Yeah.
And you don't think any parent's going to object to that?
Well, it doesn't matter what the parents object to.
Excuse me?
If you're going to tell kids that they're in school and they're doing it remotely and they have to be in front of their computer...
Where's the trust?
There needs to be verification. There is no trust when it comes to kids. I was a kid.
Hang on.
I used to go to homeroom, sign in, and then go out.
You should have watched the whole meeting and listened to Mr. Barden.
All right.
Did you see that part of it?
I did, but I don't.
How many times during a class does a teacher at the high school take attendance? I'll help you.
I don't know. 3 times a day.
No, per class.
Per class, okay.
Right, because it's different at the high school.
And when you say take attendance, how do they do? They make them turn the camera on to show that they're there.
They talk to them.
Oh, they talk to them.
Yeah.
So there is verification that the kids are there.
This all came, and this is.
Don't get upset because people are saying this, so I figure we can clear the air.
And I love that you did. So this all came out of a discussion that the system where the teachers are tracking attendance had 2 options: in attendance or absent. Excuse me, 3. In attendance, absent, or late.
Okay.
Right? And the superintendent came to the school committee and said, we want to put a remote category in. So we have statistical evidence of Tom was here physically, Neil was here remotely. Good thing.
Yep.
From there, we spiraled into Johnny turning his camera off and driving it all around and legal responsibility.
Right. Well, I'm not fighting anybody else's war.
Yeah.
But from watching that, it made me think.
Yeah.
I was a kid.
Yeah.
At Lawrence High School, I'd go to homeroom.
Yeah.
I'd sign in.
Yeah.
And my second and third period were free periods.
Yeah.
So I'd leave.
Yeah.
I'd leave. My friends and I would go down to Common Street. We'd go to that little coffee shop across from the old courthouse.
Yep.
We'd get lunch.
Remember
we'd get
it.
coffee. We'd hang out there. It was called Basha's at the time. And then for fourth period, I'd make fourth period. And then fifth period was lunch. So we'd leave again. So we'd go back for one class or skip that one class and just stay out until my next class I actually had to physically attend was like 1 o'clock for fifth period, sixth period. So I know what kids do. I know there can't ever be a trust factor.
I went to
kids.
the Gulag, Central Catholic.
Yeah.
You didn't get any choice to
Well,
leave.
right. And if only we had that now.
Yeah.
If only we had that now. If we had the discipline now.
Somewhere between there and where we are.
Yeah.
I don't know.
What is the attendance like? What are the attendance? I mean, I'm not asking
The
for
statistics are good. I don't know them off the top of my head, but they're good.
Yeah.
Are people abusing the system? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Do I know the numbers? No.
No.
I'll ask for it at the next.
Do we know how many kids that we lost when COVID happened that haven't come back? Because I'm hearing that in other
don't.
communities.
No.
I was listening. I can't remember what community it was. It might have been Andover, but don't hold me to that. But there was one community within the last week that their school board members were talking about how they lost like a third of their students at COVID, and they haven't gotten them back yet. And so I was just wondering if Methuen had the same issue.
No,
So
I don't think
it's not really.
I don't think it's that high. Listen, I got a son who's a teacher in Revere, completely remote. This is not a unique problem to Methuen, to Lawrence, to
Right.
Andover.
Right.
This is problematic.
Right. So now that your hero Saint Fauci says that all the kids should go
Saint
back,
Fauci.
all the kids should go back to school.
Well, we've been doing hybrid.
Right. Well, but he didn't say hybrid. He said all the kids should go back and be in school.
That's his perspective. He can afford to have
Oh, it's his perspective. I thought he was the preeminent guy that you follow. I thought he was like your hero.
that. I don't think
You said
I
you
ever
were
said
the
he was
last
my hero.
Last time you were here, you said
I
you
have
were a
great
big
respect for
fan.
him.
You're a
I
big
am.
fan of Fauci.
I am.
So you think he might be wrong about
Big
that?
fan doesn't mean I'm ready for sainthood.
I love to hear it. So he might be wrong about this. You're saying
He could be.
okay, all right, because he's been wrong about almost
I'll
everything.
tell you. So we sit just before I came up here. I sat with the superintendent, the lead school nurse, the director of public health, and the chief of staff, and we went through the numbers.
Mm-hmm.
We don't sit there and I got a theory on going back to. We look at the numbers.
Right.
How many under 19? How many by school? How many teachers by school? Because it's a double-edged sword. There's the kids. There's the staff. You need a mix of both.
Right.
Right? You could have all the kids healthy. If you've got 22 teachers out in a building, you've got a problem.
Yep.
In Methuen, we're already, and I say this to the audience candidly, I've talked about it at the school committee, we're already down 40 positions due to leaves and other things that COVID related. Right? We've got vacancies out there. We're trying to find people. It's a hard time to find people that want to teach.
I wouldn't want to teach. That's
I've offered to if city council won't barbecue me to go do a Spanish class for a day. I was on Spanish radio this morning in Lawrence.
Were you?
Yeah.
With my buddy Bill Castro?
Mega 95. Yeah, I love him. He's not my buddy. He's my brother.
He's awesome.
I love him.
I've known him for about 30 years, and I love that guy.
He's the best. I went down there to talk about COVID in advance of Christmas holidays. And we're going to be doing some PSAs, and I sang a little in Spanish.
Nice.
Yeah.
That I want to hear.
Well, you can hear it.
Because when we're out and karaoke's going on, I don't ever see you get up to do the karaoke.
Oh, I do
I
it.
definitely. You've never done it when I was there.
I've cut back on my
I've seen
drinking since I
Diana
got
do
elected.
it. I've seen Sonia
Diana's
do it.
got a fabulous
She does
voice.
have a great
Yeah.
voice. And I've seen Sonia do it, and
Yeah.
I've seen both Janas do it.
Yeah, I
But
saw
I've never
Sonia
seen,
this morning.
How is she?
She's good.
I love her.
Yeah. Resident of
awesome.
Methuen, I'm her mayor.
She's probably one of the most brilliant people I've ever met.
Sonia?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very smart.
Smart.
Even Diana complains, I can't believe she's so smart. She's smarter than me. I hate that, she says. So as far as the schools are concerned, just to wrap this up.
Yeah. This segment of the show, the school segment.
You think, and I'll take your word for it.
Yeah.
You think that the Methuen schools are handling it right.
I do.
And you think that what you're doing is going to mitigate higher numbers of COVID.
I do.
Okay.
And I say that, candidly, and I say, I had a parent email this morning and disagree with me, and I get it. No matter what decision you make, somebody's going to disagree with you.
Right, because you have people who are rabid on the right who not only hate wearing masks, but hate you if you wear a mask.
Correct.
I'm not one of those.
Right.
You have people on the far left who will physically attack people for not wearing a mask.
Correct.
And so no matter what you do, you're going to piss off one of those two groups.
This is still America.
Yep, I agree. By the way, when you said that at the meeting, somebody asked, for those watching, somebody asked the mayor at the last council meeting if he was going to mandate testing in the schools. And his answer made me literally leap out of my chair. If you're watching the podcast, you could hear me clapping alone in my office when he said, Methuen is still in America. And we're not going to force anybody to do anything they don't want to do. And I thought, my God, if only we had congressmen that thought that way. If only we had a governor that thought that way. If only we had senators who thought that way. Because this is still America. And if someone wants to take a chance, that's on them. Let them do it.
Yep.
I'm not going to take I'm not taking the vaccine first round. I'm going to wait for everybody else to take it and see how many people die first. And then maybe I'll take the vaccine.
This guy's like the Grim Reaper, for God's sakes.
Well, listen,
it's all about death today.
Well, COVID is a death thing.
No.
It's not a death thing?
Well,
then why aren't the schools open?
Well, why? So only death cancels school? Is that what it is?
Well, no, but if it, well, yeah, I would say.
I come from the generation that used to walk 33 miles backwards over the hills.
Right, with no shoes.
In the morning, with no shoes.
Uphill both
Never
ways.
went to sleep, yeah. So, I'd say this to you. I think we have to be comfortable with the uncomfortable. Comfortable with the unknown. Again, I'm going to go back to schools, and somebody's going to disagree with this, and it's okay. I'm proud of our teachers, our administrators, and our superintendent.
They've got a tough job.
They've done an outstanding job in a very difficult environment. And by the way, so have our police officers, so have our fire department, right? So have the people who work in City Hall. I work with a lot of really cool people. And every once in a while, a bad apple is spotted and everybody paints the broad brush. And that's not what I see. Right? So I said it on my show. I'm going to say it here. I love what I'm doing. I'm in it for all the right reasons. My heart is in this job, right? And even to the people who criticize me morning, noon, and night on Facebook, keep it up.
Yeah,
right. I'm not.
I still think you should pay less attention to them and more attention because when I ask
These
people,
chips are addictive.
They are addictive. Wait till the Blaze come back; those are even better. When I'm out in the community, and I'm in Methuen way more than I'm in my hometown of North Andover, or even in Lawrence these days. I'm in Methuen a lot more.
Yeah, we got to talk about that. We don't want you, Methuen.
No, listen, I understand they're taking up a petition too, so
well, we don't want you
bringing
your diseases over the line.
Right. But when I talk to people, when I'm in Borelli's and I'm standing in line and I see somebody that I know, and they say, "Hey, the mayor comes on your show, huh?" And I go, yeah, they say, I think he's doing a good job. I haven't really heard anybody say, "Yeah, I think the guy's way off track. I don't think he's doing a good job."
Yeah.
And I didn't get that with the last mayor. I didn't even get that with the mayor before that. There were always a lot of people who didn't like the mayor and a lot of people who did. I don't find many people criticizing the job that you're doing. They may not like you, but I don't find many people criticizing the job that you do.
Who could not like me?
I could think of at least one city councilor.
Okay. Well, I'm lovable.
That's true.
I'd say this.
I'd say he's lovable.
So my view on my performance is if I was, I heard you're going to do grades.
I am doing grades.
Yeah. So I would give myself a B-.
Really?
Yeah. And I say that because to me, I'm always about how I could do better.
Right.
Right? And I say this, and this is going to come through the wrong way, and I'll apologize in advance. I'm not a politician, and people will go crazy when they hear that. I do not.
I agree with that.
So
sometimes I wish you were a little bit more political.
Yeah, I'm not savvy politically. And
then you should listen to the people like me who are savvy politically when I say, this is coming up. You might want to steer away from this.
No, so while I respect you for that, I'd say this to you. I can only be who I am, right? And direct is my approach, and transparency is how I choose to go. Has that blown up on me a couple times? You betcha. You betcha. But it's not going to stop me from being me.
Yeah,
right?
I don't want you to stop being you, but I think I don't know a lot about air ducts, right? Yeah. So if I'm going to do something that has to do with air ducts, I'm going to call Nina at Climate Designs and say, look, you guys do air ducts. You're the experts. What do you think of this idea? And I think when people come to you with political suggestions, like maybe you might want to steer away from this, you might want to steer toward this, you always just don't listen to any of that and just do whatever you want to do.
True.
And do whatever you want. And so I think you would do better for yourself if sometimes you listen to some of that political advice. Not that it's the only thing that you make your decision on based on politics, but sometimes, like, you don't have a political bone in your body and it works against you sometimes, you know? So that's my only advice for what it's worth.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny, all the councilors took my advice before the election. Then they got elected and Tom Duggan was the bad guy, right? Because now all of a sudden they're involved in shenanigans and I'm calling them out. So now all of a sudden I'm a piece of crap. But before the election, boy, they were on the phone with me every day. What's the ones and twos, Tom? Tom, where should my people be on election day, Tom?
But you invite that.
Well, I don't.
You're like a shock jock. My theory on you is shock jock.
All right. Well, I mean,
right?
I guess I'll take that.
You say things to elicit a reaction. I don't know if you always. Some of the stuff you say about women, I got to be honest with you, I don't know how to take it.
Okay. All right. Fair enough.
So I'm. You know,
but you're from even a slightly older generation than I am.
Absolutely.
So you should understand. Like when I was growing up, hitting on a woman was going over and trying to kiss her, right? Now, let's just talk about it. Well, you're a single guy, right?
Yeah.
So
very single.
So
Thanksgiving Day, all alone. I napped for 2.5 hours. It was sad.
So when I was growing up, hitting on someone was going over and trying to kiss them, trying to get them to go on a date with you. Today,
that's assault, brother.
If I compliment a woman's dress today, they consider it sexual harassment.
Yeah, but so part of that is I love that you brought that up. So I got to be honest with you, I was horrified that the city had provided no training on sexual harassment. You're talking to a guy who went to multiple sexual harassment trainings a year as an executive at Raytheon. That's mandated, right? Understanding how things have changed and how you have to react in a given environment is an important part of being, moving forward. So we are addressing that in the city. Right. We're doing training. But take sexual harassment off the table. There's a lot of things that haven't been done. We haven't done leadership training. There's been a prevalent theme of kicking the can down the road.
That's painfully obvious that you're not doing leadership training.
Well, and so
when I watch the meetings,
so part of it is, and I'm not criticizing past mayors, so I want to make sure you understand that is everything is a decision cost based, right? So it's cheaper not to do any training, right? I put a system in that we're using for COVID reporting. We're going to use for our DPW. We'll use it for our health inspectors. And I'm going to use it when I go to the budget next year because I'm going to be smarter and better prepared when we go to the budget. And I'm going to say, look, we did X thousand transactions, check-in restaurants, with Y number of health inspectors. Either we budget more or this is all we can do. Right? You have to, that's the facts and data things that I know there's one guy who loves me when I say that. You've got to be accountable to the audience. You got to show them how the tax dollars are being spent. And I'm going to remind people, my track record thus far is pretty good. And I said, ask the CAFO, who the most frequent person to talk to every day about expenses is. It's me. I've already notified the department heads that we had a department head meeting yesterday, and they're doing a good job. I'm pulling the reins in January. Because I got to make sure that the state gets to where they said they were going to get financially in support of our city. I'm not going to turn around to our residents and say, whoops, state said this, didn't get there, right? So we're going to tighten the belt in January. Right. And then if the state gives us what we said we'll make sure we do what we need to do, later in the year, like in the April timeframe, right? But that's just good business practice to me. That's not being punitive, right? We're just trying to make sure. I'm not going to surprise the residents and say, surprise, we got a $2 million overrun. I'm all about budgeting, right? I pay lots of attention to the numbers. And every purchase order that's placed in the city of Methuen, I look at, right? And the department heads will tell you, they get questions frequently. What's this for? Why this? Why that? Ever learned something? I was talking to somebody, our purchasing director. We got office supplies that we're doing purchase recs and everything for. There's an easier way to do those. So once we get through the CARES spending at the end of January, we're going to take a hard look at that. Because I come from an environment where you have online accounts, which Combis has with Staples and WB Mason and people like that. And you should be able to, use a purchasing card to just do your transactions versus, paying you to do a transaction that's $49.41 from WB Mason.
Right.
When you should be doing the $80,000 transaction and paying attention to that. It's crazy. You're asking for mistakes by piling on, right? So, that's all process related, and we're going to focus on that.
All right, so we had a lot of fun the first half of the show.
We did.
So let's get into something uncomfortable. So the city council has ramped up their war on the police department and on the police chief. My understanding is that council...
I hadn't noticed.
Well, then you're not paying attention, as the opening song says.
I must have not been paying attention.
Must have not been paying attention. I know that the soon-to-be former council chairman, Jim McCarty, I was told by a reporter at one of the Boston media outlets that he called for Chief Solomon's resignation. I know that you guys commissioned an audit of the management audit of the police department to see how it was being managed.
We did.
And before that even happened, and they haven't come out with their report yet, before they even come out with their report, the council does a vote of no confidence. Then they also are calling for a 211 investigation so that they can investigate. And I'm all for any investigation anybody wants to do. Because if something comes out that shows that Joe Solomon's a crook or that any of his management team is a crook and they're doing something wrong, we should know about that. I'm for all the 211 investigations and everything. But I guess my question is, when is enough enough? Like, at what point do we say, okay, can this be over now?
Yeah.
So it seems like they're jumping the gun and they're looking for the result that they want while an audit and while an IG investigation is going on.
Yeah. So I'll say two things. So and you hit on both of them. So the audit report and the IG's report are essential for me.
Right.
And they will determine the course of action I take. And I mean that sincerely. Articles in the newspaper may have facts in them. I'll say that. But they alone are not enough to act upon.
Right.
Right. And so I'm not defending the chief.
Why not, by the way? If I had to, forget that it's Joe Solomon.
Yeah.
If I'm the mayor of Lawrence and my city council is attacking the library director at every meeting, and they don't have proof and they don't have evidence to show me, I would defend my library director until they showed me something.
Okay, but let me be quite blank since you... So every department head in the city took a reduction, except for one. Who was that one?
Would it be the police department?
That would be.
Okay.
All right. So the mayor took a $12,000 pay cut to try to show the seriousness of the budget situation in the city. A contract is a contract, right? But if the contract has illegal parts in it, then it should be looked at. So I'm looking hard at that.
Okay.
And I'm having professionals look at it.
Right.
And that's not...
And I'm okay with that.
As I should. I have an obligation to the taxpayers to be accountable to everybody.
Right.
Right? But if the answer comes back from that professional that there's nothing in the contract that's illegal, now I'm not going to go out and say the contract's the bad thing. Is he overpaid? Yes, he is.
I don't think anybody, including him, would deny that.
Okay. But here's the thing. 9 previous city councilors and a previous mayor signed it.
Right.
And so my whole approach is legal risk to the city. And that's what it has to be, because I'm an agent of the city.
Right.
I'm the purchasing agent in the end. And when I say something, it's different even than a city councilor saying it. So I'm not going to speak for or against any employee until I know all the details around it.
But don't you give, people have accused you of something in the last election,
They
right?
did?
You got accused of some horrible things by your opponent.
Wasn't true.
And I said to your opponent at the time, show me the evidence that that's true and I will write the story. The same thing I say to DJ Beauregard and Mike Samad about Joe Solomon. And their answer is always, well, we don't trust you. Okay, fine. Don't trust me. That's okay. How come you haven't given your proof to the Globe, the Herald, the Tribune? Why don't you post it on Facebook? If you've got proof that there's a city employee that's corrupt and has done something illegal, and you don't want to trust me with it, First of all, you can trust me because if Joe Solomon turns out to be a crook, that means he fooled me for 16 years, and I'm going to want to take him down. And by the way, my story will have a lot more credibility because I'm the guy that's been defending him for 15 years. Yeah. Even when the last mayor, the last 3 mayors ago tried to fire him.
You keep saying, so I hate to use a Fauci moment on you,
all right,
but you keep saying, is he a crook, yes or no? There's a much broader scheme there.
Okay.
As a leader, there's more than just, are you doing something illegal or not?
Right.
Right. That's
but
one
the
of
accusation.
the
But the accusation by Jim McCarty.
No, there's others.
Okay, but the primary allegation by Mike Samad and Saba and McCarty and some of the other counselors is that he's a crook. And in fact, Jim McCarty said during a debate on MCTV3 or whatever it's called, public access, during the debate, he said that he was involved in a criminal conspiracy. And so I think what my position is if I'm the mayor of Lawrence, I'm the mayor of Methuen, and I've got a library director, and one of my counselors says that about them with no evidence to prove that that's true, I'm going to defend them and give them the benefit of the doubt until they can show me differently. Right. Because that's how I am as a reporter.
So I'm going to, I think a lot of this could have been quelled if the chief took a 10% pay cut like the rest of us.
Do you really think so?
I do.
Because I think that this guy could do, it doesn't matter what he does, they're coming after him.
Well,
because there's a lot more going on behind the scenes. It's not really so much them going after him. Other people are pulling the strings to make it happen. We all know that, and we all know who they are.
Maybe. So I guess I'd say to you is, I've said publicly, I'm going to wait until the audit is finished. Mm-hmm. I'm going to wait to read the report. I'm going to share the report with the council, and then I'm going to share the report with the public.
Okay.
There's many more things as leader than are you doing something criminal, yes or no.
Right.
How you treat your employees is important.
Sure.
Right? Whether you're consistent, and I continue to use when I'm talking to people in the city, I continue to use the example of my children. And let's forget the chief for a minute, because it shouldn't all be about the chief, because this standard should exist for every city employee.
I agree.
So, but accountability is big, and I'm not going to deny that for everybody. And no matter how many years you've spent working for the city, you have an accountability to the taxpayers. I owe the taxpayers a response on the police department, and then when we're finished in the police department, we're going to do the DPW. Right? That's been my plan all along. This is not about the person. This is about accountability to the taxpayer.
It shouldn't be about the person, but the councils have made it about the person.
Well, there's questions that are unanswered, so I'm going to keep going back on you. But let's go back to the, right? So we commissioned an audit. We are waiting an IG report. And those two things together will form the basis of what my actions are as the mayor.
Right.
Right? And I will be open and transparent about that. And that means, if there's things that the audit and the IG say are really done well by police, we'll talk about that. And if there are things that need to be addressed, we'll talk about that as well.
My fear is that I've read management. I was on the school board in Lawrence, so I've read management reports before. And like the first 15 pages are, when we did the Lawrence School Department audit report, the first 15 pages were, these are all the things that the Lawrence School Department is doing pretty well. Yeah. These are things that they've kind of got really good. And then the next 15 pages are a bunch of things that you can do better. And then there might be 1 or 2 pages in the back that say, but these things are alarming. We did find, there are things that aren't going well, but you can tweak it, you can make it better. Yeah. But then these are 2 or 3 things that are alarming. And so my fear is the audit report comes out, and people like Mike Samad and Beauregard, people who have a personal agenda, will seize on the fact that he didn't buy enough paper clips, or seize on the fact that something negative in that second 15-page report.
Let me rebut that a little bit.
And try to use that to just push him out the door and make it. Okay.
So here's a perfect example. You should never have taken these chips out, by the way.
But they're good. Wait till the Blaze come out. I'm telling you, they're 10 times better than these. And by the way, Doritos not giving us anything for
take-home vehicles for the police department.
Yes.
How many officers do we have in Methuen?
Oh, that's a good question. If I had to guess, I'd say maybe 80.
When you put the civilian personnel, it's just over 100.
Okay.
Now, discount the civilians. You got 65 patrolmen budgeted. I know that. You got 3 captains budgeted. I know that. How many take-home vehicles were there out of the 80?
I don't know.
29.
Okay.
So I look at the citizens and I listen to the citizen. That's too many. Mm-hmm. That's too many. I don't care who you are. Right? And that's not, I don't like cops.
Right.
There's an expense associated with that.
Right.
Right? Gas, etc. People, their contract allows them to live within, I think it's 15 miles of the city, which is fine. For patrol, I want patrol officers who are regular patrol officers and above, not for intermittents. I want to clear that up in case this tape gets used against me. So, 29 I wrote a take-home vehicle policy. Right? There's a process where people can grieve it if they want, and I believe they have. But my view is I have an obligation in a year where the revenue from the state is down $6 million to the city of Methuen. We have an obligation to look at the taxpayers and not make them pay for 29 vehicles to be driven to and from home. Right?
I don't disagree
What's
with
the right
that.
number? So the right number is probably, in my mind, in the 12 to 15 range.
I would have said 10, but okay.
Right?
I'll take that.
And so, yeah, but there's certain groups that the command staff should take home their cars because they have to respond.
Right. The SWAT team, the detectives.
Correct. Well, not all the detectives, the lieutenant and whoever's covering, in my mind. Right? So there should be 2 take-homes in the detective, the lieutenant who's in charge and whichever detective's on call. And that, that's not, to me, that's not a slight on the officers. That is economics. 29 is too many. So you can't look at the citizens of our community in a community that still has an 11% unemployment rate. And remind me, I want to talk about rental assistance before I leave today.
Okay.
11% unemployment rate, and expect them to understand 30 people out of 80 taking home vehicles. That does not make sense, right? And it's not,
Now, would you call that mismanagement? Because if that's in the audit report, and it probably will be.
I do.
You do call that mismanagement?
I do.
Okay. See, I don't call that mismanagement.
I do.
But tell me why that is.
And I'm not laying it entirely solely at the chiefs, so the command staff. You've got to tell the troops, hey, these are hard times. This is a fiscal reality that the rest of the community is dealing with, and we've got to roll with it. I have a city vehicle. How much gas from the city coffers do I put in my vehicle?
Probably none. You probably pay for it yourself.
0.
Right.
I fill it myself. Right? I'm not asking the officers to do that. But somewhere between what most cities do, which is if you've got a vehicle, you've got imputed income. That's adding to your income. And nobody gets a take-home vehicle. There's a harsh reality that says this is common sense here. And forget the police department. So the same rule went out for the DPW. Right? I'm not punishing people. This is a fiscal reality. Right? You've got a responsibility to turn to the taxpayers when the tax comes out and say, this is what we're doing. Right? Because assessed value of property in Methuen continues to rise. So, there are decisions that are made out of economic good sense, I think, right? Now, I didn't go to council for that, but council's aware of it. I would assume they support it. But, I use that as an example that's something that, to me, and this is a lesson learned, and forget the chief for a minute, a lot rolls to the mayor.
Everything rolls to the mayor.
Well, but so to me, I come from an environment where you're part of participative leadership. So leaders at different levels make decisions and are accountable for them, right? And I shouldn't be the only person making a decision, on what the COVID leave is for an essential employee, right? So that's been. Things tend to roll up.
So let me ask you, let's say there's, what did you say, 29 take-home cars? So let's say tomorrow.
There were.
Okay, so let's say you said, 19 of those cars, I want you to turn them in. And now they're just sitting there. You've got the cars, they've already been paid for.
Sure.
The only thing you're really saving is gas.
Nope.
That's kind of pennies in a $100 million budget, right?
No, I would disagree with that. So it's tens of thousands of dollars.
Is it really?
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
I'm glad you said that because the Inspector General in 2015 had a laser focus on this same topic.
Really?
Yeah. And not just in Methuen, across the Commonwealth. So, you've got to understand the average taxpayer has a right to expect his or her city to manage economically, especially when times are difficult like this. Right? We have an obligation. That's accountability to me. So me looking in their eyes saying, I'm doing everything in my power to make sure we keep costs as limited as possible. Right? Understanding this has been a very difficult year. I've made decisions economically that others have disagreed with to try to put money towards tax relief for citizens. I sit here and look at you and say, I think I did the right thing. In a city with 11%, some people would disagree. I had a lot of good discussions with the CAFO, with Sean Cronin, who, from DLS, from the state, he's the financial overseer kind of from Methuen. He's been a good resource for me. He's told me when he agrees with what I'm doing. He's told me when he disagrees, and why. Mm-hmm. And that's been good lesson learned for me. But I'm going to keep saying it. Every decision I make, whether it's the $6,000 I spent out of CARES money, not out of tax money, or for Halloween candy, or the $53,000 from the Castle Fund for the Christmas lights, I'm making decisions with the overall best interests of the city of Methuen at heart. I'm not doing things for Neil Perry. I'm not, right? I cut my own salary. I'm comfortable with that. Right?
Now the council wants to hire a new city solicitor. I'm still a little confused by this because you've got a guy who works full-time, but you pay him part-time. And that's because Attorney D'Agostino, I guess he's got some kind of a pension or something. He can't make more than a certain amount of money. So rather than save money, the council decided that they were going to get rid of Ricky D'Agostino. And I understand he found out when he looked at the agenda, nobody actually bothered to give him a heads up.
Yeah.
And they interviewed a guy this week, and I can't remember his name. It's Simonetti or something like that. And I don't know who the gentleman is. He might be a
Rossetti.
Rossetti. I'm sorry. And I don't know the guy. I've never met him, so I have nothing against him. But during the discussion, it came out that he was fired from Lowell, and he's suing Lowell. Mm-hmm. And my first thought was, isn't Methuen trying to get away from those kind of things? How is this guy their pick?
Depends on what the rationale for him suing is.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. They asked him why he was fired, and he talked about litigation, but never said why he was fired.
You can find out by you Google it.
No, I know, but I mean, we talk about transparency. Mm-hmm. One of those counselors should have forced him to say, "Okay, but why were you fired? What was their stated reason?" So we know. And
I did like that he offered that he was terminated.
Yep,
that's better than
trying to hide it.
Yeah.
Yep.
So,
and again, maybe he's a great lawyer, and maybe they'll hire him and he'll do a good job.
The counterpoint to that is Malden hired him twice.
Yes.
Right?
Yep. I mean, but that doesn't really negate the fact that he was fired, though, from the other job.
Sometimes people just don't mix.
That's true.
Right?
That's true.
I mean, it happens. So, I'd love to sit here and tell you every hiring decision I've made has been a corker.
I'd like to see them repost the position. See if they can get some more qualified candidates, people maybe who weren't, fired from other jobs and suing municipalities.
I would be careful not to. You don't want to just count them out just because of that. We're going to do proper due diligence. Trust me.
All right. I mean, obviously, you know something that I don't. You don't want to tell us.
No.
Okay. All right. Very good. So, how long do you think before you're going to have?
I only come so I can see Ben. I like Ben.
He likes you too, apparently.
Yeah.
You threw me off my question now.
Sorry. That was good. Think of you on fire on YouTube.
So how long before you think you're going to have a full-time city solicitor to hit the ground running?
I don't know, because the city solicitor doesn't work for the mayor.
Yeah, but I mean, you would know you're there every day, no?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's up for vote on the 7th.
And when do you think we'll have
I don't vote.
An audit report? Apparently, you don't even get a chance to talk sometimes either. So
I do. If you watch the light meeting, I convinced Councilor DeZoglio to give me some of his time. Mm-hmm. So
very interesting in and of itself. You have an audit report coming out on the management. We talked about. I understand
draft report before the holidays. Hopefully, the IG report will be in the same time frame.
Okay.
Because I would say to you, we need to address this and move on. It's time to move the city of Methuen forward. We need to address this situation to do that.
So
right?
now,
so there's one of the things is, in support of what I just said, there's a lot of good things happening, but they're not getting the airplay that they should because we're focused on the negative, right? I say this.
I focus on both. We talk about the positive things.
Yeah,
we talk about the negative things.
I love my job. I love Methuen. I really do. I want my kids to love Methuen. Hey, if people think this was a power trip for me, best of luck to you.
Yeah.
I did this because I want my kids to love Methuen as much as I do. And I don't want Methuen to be a punchline and a joke. Right? It's a great community. There are great people there. They're passionate. They care. Sometimes does that passion bubble over? You betcha. Right? But it's a great community, and we want to move it forward. And, one of the reasons I'm running for re-election is not everything. I wish the term had been 4 years versus 2 because I wouldn't be rerunning.
Right. 4 years is better, by the way.
It is. I think it is. But I tell you, the COVID issue kind of stopped us from doing some of the things I want to do. And I still have things that set to do, but we're still all about establishing accountability in all the city departments.
So we're nearing the end of the show.
We are?
Believe it or not, the hour flies.
Don't forget rentals. You got to let me do rental assistance.
Talk about your rental assistance.
So we've set aside $200,000 of city money, CARES money, excuse me. And it has to be used before December 30th. So if you're a resident who has struggled due to COVID to pay your rent, right, there are some conditions. There are income conditions, but the primary one says your rent had to be current as of March 2020. You have to be able to prove that COVID impacted your income. If you can prove those, there's an application on the city website that you can get up to $3,000 for rent and utilities to pay your rent and utilities in the city of Methuen, because with 11% unemployment rate, and so I want to bring something. We put $3.1 million in free cash my first year. I don't want to talk about the tax rate, but I think we're going to do the right thing there. I'm waiting on confirmation from the state. We recognize that the students have had a difficult year with the council, and I say this, we share credit that we did a good job on the budget. I didn't like everything we did, but I like the fact that we pulled the belt in, right, and didn't spend anywhere near what people thought we would spend, and we're making the right decisions economically day to day from a policy standpoint. Add all of that up, where the tax rate we're going to discuss Monday night. I hope the residents watch that. We're offering $200,000 of rental assistance to members of the community impacted, and so we're trying to make sure everybody has as enjoyable a holiday season as possible, celebrating with 10 people or less, hopefully people that you live with. So,
yeah, no, not happening here. Another thing before we go. I found out last night that I guess the Days Inn is going to be taking in homeless people again, and that they've accepted a grant from the state so that the people who go there don't have to just be Methuen people. They can be people from other communities. And I know that this was something that you addressed the last time this happened, and I thought maybe you could give us your thoughts on this.
Yeah, I'm a little perplexed that they continue to do that without consulting the city, because
well, why should they? Like, if I'm a private person, and
I'll tell you why, because it adds costs to the city.
Okay.
So I can, I'm glad you said.
But I mean, on their
I'll
end,
provide statistics that show that the impact on my fire and police departments grows.
I agree with that.
Right. So I've got
on their end,
more medical runs. I've got more of this. I've got more police calls to Days Inn when people are there. This is not saying that we don't want them to have a roof over their head. We've never said that. Right. This is not about keep everybody out, but there should be some consultation with the city. That's a business in our city. There's an obligation to discuss it with the city. If I did this in another city, other city mayors would be unhappy with me.
Right.
Right? If I went to Andover and did it, or Lawrence and did it, I would expect.
But this is the state.
Yeah, well,
this is the state gave a grant.
This is not the state. So there'll be somebody who's, from a business standpoint, who is kind of quarterbacking this, is what my theory is, right? So somebody texted me the same thing last night, and that's on my agenda of things to look at today and tomorrow, is why did they just not consult with us?
Right.
I can sit here and tell you there was added cost to the taxpayer of Methuen. Remember, my whole job is accountability to the taxpayer of Methuen.
Right.
Right?
But I guess my question,
people can't
though,
just
is,
make decisions that cost money to the taxpayers of Methuen without consulting with the city. That's not that we're going to say no.
Right.
We need to understand. They need to understand so the state's going to pay this business. Is the state giving some money to Methuen for the increased medical costs, for the increased police and fire
maybe
costs?
that's something you could apply for through COVID.
Well, maybe.
Yeah.
There were no COVID applications for that, to my knowledge.
No.
And one of my biggest fears is the CARES funding expires, at least it's supposed to expire December 30th. And we've done some really good things with it. I shared the list with the council today. And I stand by everything we've done. If it was a contract over $50,000, it went to council. But, I'm hoping that down in Washington, people are going to start getting together and start thinking about the impact. Forget Methuen, right? Municipalities are hurting. That is across the United States. And so we need these people in Washington to be on the same page about how do we help communities get through this, right? This is impacting businesses. This is impacting individuals. And that $200,000 is a little bit of help. We need more help from Washington. So if you're in Washington, I don't care if you're red or you're blue, we need you thinking about how you help the municipalities.
Right. I think there needs to be another round of stimulus.
I agree.
And I'm perplexed as to I guess I'm not perplexed. They just didn't want they didn't want Trump to get credit for anything, so that they weren't going to work with him before the election. Yeah. But now that it's over, everybody should be getting together and trying to get some funding out.
Agreed.
Yeah. So before we go, is there anything you want to tell people? Stuff that's coming up? I know that our friends donated a Christmas tree.
So thank you to the A-Bears. I've known them since my days at Raytheon. They're wonderful people, and I'm thrilled as punch to have them in Methuen as a business, New England Dye. A beautiful Christmas tree. And, we had somebody say, why at the Loop? We're decorating the tree at Nevins. We're decorating the tree at the Loop like it's never been decorated before. We're decorating the buildings across the city. We're having it professionally done. We've got a mind map. Let me explain what it is. We want you to use your phone or your iPad or your computer as you drive around the city. There's, and I saw the first blush of it yesterday. Fantastic. You can click on a spot. It gives you an address and what's there. So you can kind of drive around the city.
So it's almost like a virtual tour.
It is.
I like that.
Yeah. And you get to go, they're putting up my tree at the clock tower right now. And I want to give a shout out to Bill Buckley and to all the folks who we put Christina St. Ange's daughter's name on the clock tower today. I'm really proud of that. That's long overdue. Great family in Methuen that we love. So Methuen's going to look great. I drive around the city and I see the residents have done a great job decorating. It's really impressive. And to me, that's a sign of that people recognize this has been a tough year. It's been a tough year. And we're trying to give them something to be hopeful about. And so I think you're going to be impressed with this map, right? So, and the best part of it is you can do it on your time.
Right.
Right. So as soon as they finish it towards the end of this week or weekend, you can drive it any night. It'll be lit up. City Hall will be lit up. Central School will be lit up. Water Department, senior citizens, Nevins Library, plus the Nevins tree, the Senior Center and their tree. It's great. It's going to be a great thing. And it'll be uplifting in a very difficult time. So.
This is your 1 year anniversary. We've only got about a minute left. What has surprised you? Like a year ago, you had a very clear idea in your head what the job was going to be, besides COVID, because we know that's going to be every answer, right? But what has surprised you about the job itself? Is there anything that's been either pleasantly surprising or unpleasantly surprising about the job that you got a year ago and now you're celebrating your anniversary?
Yeah, I guess some of the people who have been the most vocal critics on the council are not people that I anticipated. That's been the biggest surprise. And I say this candidly to you. I know you've heard me say, I don't know what I've done to elicit that reaction. And for a couple months there, I was, banging my head against the wall saying, what am I doing wrong? I'm past that now.
Yeah, because sometimes it's not you. Sometimes it's them.
Well, it is what it is at this point. Right? And like I said, every morning I get up, every day I go into work. I miss one day all year, and on that day I had my gallbladder out. I'll probably pay for these chips later. But, I think we have a tendency to blow things out of proportion. And I don't even want to bring up that executive session again or the thing that happened in November, right? I'm personally paternal about my employees, right? And we talked that situation. I'm very protective of my employees and their rights to privacy. And forget that situation. The article on the front page of the Eagle Tribune talking about 4 employees getting disciplined. That does not belong on the front page of the paper. To me, that's not newsworthy. That's the process, and those employees have a right to a process to push back and say, we think you're being overly.
I just want to push back a little bit.
Yeah,
I actually think it is, from a journalist's perspective, I think it is a story. What's not a story is their names. It doesn't matter who they are. But people should know that you've got 4 employees that did something wrong and they're being disciplined for it, and action.
But you got to get the story right.
Right. Well, the Tribune never does. And what's funny, here's what's funny. I've never written anything in my paper that any city council could ever say at the council table that I got wrong. And yet I get the crap beat out of me by almost every one of them sitting there at every single meeting. And yet the Tribune gets something wrong every flipping day, and councils have to get up at every meeting. Steve Saber did it at the last meeting. He said, there's a thing in the paper, in the Eagle Tribune, and they said that me and McCarty aren't getting along, and that's not true, and I don't know where we got that. And he took my comments out of context, and I sat there and thought, yeah, but how come you're not beating them up the way you beat me up? And by the way, I've never gotten anything wrong. Saber's never got up there and said the Valley Patriot got something wrong. He may not like my perspective on an editorial.
I'm going to buy a dinner for you and Councilor Saber. Get you together. I don't know. Break bread.
I don't know if that's a good idea.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea. No, they.
If you could pull it off, I'll show up.
Okay.
I don't think you can pull it off because I think his level of hatred is too personal.
I wouldn't use the word hatred.
Yeah, I will. And I'll repeat it.
Yeah.
Because there are some people who may not like me, but they don't hate me.
Yeah.
Right? And there are some people that don't like what I do, but they do like me.
Yeah.
And then there are people who just outright hate me.
I'm in that second group.
And you probably are. And Steve Saber's one of them. And
I don't think so.
And listen, and I've accepted that. When he does something good, I'm going to come on the show and say he did something good.
So go back to what I said.
When he does something bad, I'm also going to come in and say he did something bad.
We're so passionate that we inflame every discussion.
Right.
In the city of Methuen. That's right. We need to be able to understand that sometimes agreeing to disagree. I don't like it when you talk about women the way you talk about them.
All right.
My theory.
All women or just certain times?
Well, no, you say certain comments at certain times.
Okay. Usually just to get a reaction, but okay, I'll take it.
I agree with that. Usually to get a reaction.
Right.
That's why I say shock jock.
Right.
Right. But coming from where I went through, going through the difficult divorce I went through, that is, and being trained the way I was, right, at this point in my life, that's dangerous turf, right?
Well, for you, because you're a chief administrator. I by the way, it's not sexual harassment when I do it because I have no power.
Oh, it is.
No,
it is.
We've been told for 10 years, and every single person agrees that it's not about sex, it's about power. That your boss can't sexually harass someone underneath them.
If you're going to take the training, you got to take it all.
Right, but I'm not anybody's boss.
Ringing.
Like nobody works. I'm not complimenting the dress of anybody who works for me.
It's not what you take it to be. It's what the recipient takes.
Oh well, please. They can take. If I say I like the color blue, they can take that wrong. I mean, you've got a city council who heard something going on in your office, took it as a threat. That's the way that person took it. Well, you're going to pretend you don't know. Jessica Finicaro thinks you or somebody in your office threatened her, and that's the way she took it. But that might not be the way that it was meant. I think the way that it is meant is probably as important as the way it was taken.
I'm trying to remember when she was in my office.
At the very beginning of the year.
Okay, that was when we were talking about the treasurer, and I brought them in groups of 3. I didn't threaten anybody.
I understand that, but
I didn't curse at the executive session.
Right, but
I said
you're arguing the example.
Yeah.
And what I'm saying is, you can say something and somebody can misinterpret it.
Sure.
or purposely take it the wrong way to make you look bad and spread it, like what happened with me and Steve, right?
Steve and I
stand corrected.
Yeah.
Former teacher, Steve and I. But it shouldn't be based on the perception of the listener. It also needs to be the intent of the speaker, right?
But that's hard to interpret for the listener.
Well, I don't know. I don't know what that is. But listen, I'm not a closed-minded person. I take everything that you say today, including criticism. I'll be driving home today and I'll be thinking, well, maybe he's right about that.
Don't cry.
Maybe I should do something about that.
When are we getting our grades?
A week from next Tuesday, the Valley Patriot will be out, and you'll be all getting your grades.
C++.
So yeah, I think there's only one that gets an F.
Ooh.
And I think everybody else is in the BC category, except for maybe one person who's in the A category.
Uh-oh.
Right? I think
suck it up to somebody.
No, I don't have to suck up to it. Eunice Ziegler doesn't get involved in any of the personal bull crap at the table. She doesn't fight with anybody. She doesn't scream at anybody. She's never disrespectful to anybody. And when she gets behind something, like she doesn't argue for like an hour about a comma. When she argues about something or she presents something, it's usually something really important, really well thought out. And then if other people disagree with her, she listens. And I don't see that from most of the other people at that table. So I think she's probably going to get an A when I go through. Like I have a criteria of how I'm going to judge each counselor. Steve Saber's going to get a B+ on the budget.
A B+?
Right? Mike Samad's going to get a B+ on the budget. Right? Dave Borg,
categories?
Dave, yeah, I'm going to rate them by category because I'm not doing this based on who I like.
Am I getting an F?
Right? You're gonna get a higher mark than a lot of other people. Ooh. In a lot of areas.
Ooh.
But again, it's not about who Tom Duggan likes. It's going to be about my objective position on how they handle different things with the city. And on the budget, almost all of them did a great job, and that's going to be reflected.
When you evaluate me on fireworks being shot from the... Give me an F so Boisvert can relax.
Listen, I blocked him a long time ago, and you should have too. And by the way, you're the one that tipped me off to how crazy he was. Here in the studio one day, you yelled at him.
Me?
Yeah. And I was surprised. And that was like the first red flag that, Neil's obviously seeing something I don't.
You know what the thing is? I like Mark. I just don't think he's focused in the right areas.
Yeah. I think... I don't want to get into it.
Yeah.
I think that there are some people that don't know how to let anything go.
Yeah.
And I think if that individual learned to let some things go and be a little bit more logical in the way they make their decisions, they'd probably be better off.
Yeah.
But I was the last one to see it, and I got burned big. Because I was the last one to see it. And so I just blocked him. He can badmouth me on Facebook all he wants, just like Chris Naz or Charlie Nesbitt or Nelson Silva, all these people, Sid Harris, all these people that they're just negative haters. I just blocked them. I don't care what they have to say. They're not relevant to me.
Sid's okay.
My life does. You just said that to get a reaction out of me, for sure.
No.
For sure. All right, so we're way over, and I appreciate the extra time, Ben.
Yep.
Did you have a good Thanksgiving? Thanksgiving was good. You were all by yourself.
Quiet.
Was that serious?
Yeah, I cried. Yeah.
Really? If I'd known, I would have brought you over. I had tons of extra food.
I did it on purpose.
I had dinner at my mom's.
I had a lot of food because I cooked for my kids Saturday.
Oh, you did? All right, so everybody got together on Saturday then. So I went to my mom's, and we had turkey. And then I had some of the women that work for me come over. I'm not going to say girls because I don't want you to call HR on me.
Appreciate it.
And I had some of the women that work for me come over, and my friend Chris came over, and I made a ham. Because somebody donated a nice ham to me. It was very nice. They left it for me. I open my office door every day.
Uh-huh.
And somebody has left me something. Like, hey, Tom, was just thinking about you. Here's a ham for Christmas. Yesterday, I opened the door. The North Andover Merchants Association left me some poinsettias. Poinsettias? I don't know how you say that. Because I'm a member of the North Andover Merchants Association. I give them a lot of free plugs on the show or in the paper. And every day I open the door and there's something new there. And I'm delighted because, I get the crap kicked out of me a lot. So it's good to see that some people appreciate what I do. That ham is going to last me now another month and a half. It was this friggin' big. Ooh. And I did cook it, and we did eat it. There were like 5 of us. We ate it, and there's still 2/3 of a ham left. So
not a month and a half.
So
I love a ham. My kids.
You doing anything special for Christmas?
Don't eat ham.
They don't. No,
not at all.
All right. Doing anything special for Christmas?
No, just me and the kids.
All right. Okay.
We're following the governor's guidelines.
All right. Very good.
10 or less.
All right. Listen. I want to
stay healthy.
I want to thank our sponsor.
Merry Christmas. Yep.
Yeah. Merry Christmas to everybody.
Happy New Year. Happy Hanukkah.
We are doing a show the week of Christmas. So we do our show on Thursday. Thursday happens to be Christmas Eve. So we're probably going to tape it on Monday or Tuesday and then run it on Thursday.
Okay.
So there will be a show. It'll be a special Christmas show that we do. I want to thank our sponsors, Borelli's Deli. God bless Don Smiriglio. Some of the best food in the Merrimack Valley.
He's the best.
EIS Investigations, who I constantly get accused of. I'm in the tank with Joe Solomon because they spend $50 a week on your show. You disgraced your father's memory. You're supporting a. They actually believe that I would protect a corrupt cop because he spends $50 a week on my show. Like, that's how vapid these people are. They're just so ridiculous.
$50? Is that all it is?
Yeah, it's $50 a week.
Wow.
Right?
Good advertising.
Marchand and Son Construction. We're hoping Ronnie Marchand's going to run for office next year and hopefully not for mayor. Andover Optical, our new advertiser. Listen, everybody who sponsors this show gets phone calls from people who hate me. So if you appreciate the show, please go to the people who are supporting us. Go to Andover Optical, go to AFC Urgent Care, and tell them you appreciate while you're there. Tell them you appreciate that they sponsor the show because they're hearing it from the other side for sure. Who else? Don's Sign Tech, Andover Optical, Clear Path New England. I think they're going to be here next week. But we'll post that online. You can roll that up, Ben. I probably should have told you that before we... So, did I leave anybody out, Ben? Century 21, McLennan and Company. We love Century 21. And JG's Ice Cream.
Yeah.
JG's Ice Cream.
I've been doing DoorDash from JG's lately.
Really?
Pretty regularly.
Listen, this is the best time to get ice cream because A, there's no line. And B, you're getting like the cream of you're getting like the best part, the stuff on the
cream
top.
of the crop.
Cream of the crop.
Boom, boom, boom.
All right, we will see you next month, Mayor.
Yep.
Hopefully things will go much better for you in 2021.
Wow.
Right?
Wow.
And hopefully we'll get a poker game going maybe next Friday. We got it's been months now, so I'm having withdrawals.
COVID withdrawal.
All right, okay. Like we can socially distance at the poker table. All right, Melvin's here. Thank you, Ben. And thank you to the studio audience. Thanks, Chris Mader and Dan DeBrule for coming in. We appreciate that. Don't beat them up on your way out like you did when Mark was here. And Melvin Taylor says you got to go home. So damn it, go home already.
Telling you to go home. Telling you to go home. Telling you to go home.
The views and opinions expressed by the hosts, guests, or callers of this program do not necessarily reflect the opinions of the Studio 21 Podcast Cafe, the United Podcast Network, its partners, or affiliates.